Thanks so much for meeting us today here outside of the studio on Feelin' Good. I'm your host, Shelly Abrams, and I'm delighted to bring you along with me as we are springing out of the studio today and into a couple of the most delightful shops here in downtown Lebanon that are owned and run by my friend, Sonya Staffan, who is my guest today. So at this point, I'd like to say thanks, Sonya, for joining us today.
Thank you for coming over, Shelly.
When I knew that I could work our way into your busy schedule, I was even more excited about being able to be here in the shop. So thank you for making all of this happen.
Well, the girls and I were really excited about it, right?
Yes. Very good, very good. Well, I just thought since it is springtime now, that our audience would enjoy just seeing what's going on Main Street. And when I say Main Street, I mean the downtowns, the main streets of downtowns in general. And first of all, let's talk about how you arrived on this particular Main Street. In downtown Lebanon. So where did it all begin? You are actually from
Springboro. I'm a Springboro Panther at heart, but I am a Lebanon Warrior mother.
Very good.
And then eventually Sinclair mother, UC mother, OSU mother. They've been to a couple of colleges by now.
Okay. Good.
But it began when I graduated from college. I had a degree in IT and technical writing as well. And I had a very nice career in that. I enjoyed all the travel. I bought a house here on Main Street in Lebanon and rehabbed it in between my travels. Met a lovely boy here and ended up marrying here. So I didn't end up too far from Springboro. But I thought, wow, what a great place to raise kids. The only problem is I was never home long enough to raise the kids. So when Jessica was born in 1994, I quit my job in IT and began, I'll tell you what I thought I was going to do was write technical manuals.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bought a new computer. Back then, a laser printer was $3,000. I still have the original one.
You do?
Yes. And wrote a couple of books and then realized kids are a lot more work than I realized. So I had to give up that dream. And in order to help my husband's budget spread out a little bit, I thought I would can our own baby food. So I went to Jungle Gems, bought many cases of peaches, and thought I'll just go through it one at a time, the way my grandmother taught me. And I'll make all the peach puree, and then I'll go to pear puree, and I'll get all this food put away and not have to pay the prices of the grocery store. My girlfriends came over, one of whom works for me right now, Elaine Lears, and said, "Are you an idiot? Don't you know what salads are?" I didn't know what a salad was. As I said, I was an IT professional. I had no knowledge of children. And so I started turning those peaches into peach preserves instead. When I finished all those cases, I had 200 jars, and my husband said, "Oh my, what do we do now?" So without much knowledge of the business, I took them to Applefest and I sold out in a couple of hours. And that began the whole journey.
You know, I have to say right now, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I remember when you and Pete married because I was at your wedding.
Yes.
And what you've described right now, I had no idea. I have known you for all these years. I had no idea that this is how the jam and jelly business got started. I knew you as a very entrepreneurial, energetic young woman. And I don't know what I thought was the evolution of all this, but how interesting that I did know that you started in technical writing. And so from technical writing to such a creative, not that technical writing is not creative, but I would.
It isn't.
Well, I
It
mean,
isn't.
it would be very left-brained. Okay,
Yes,
is what I
yes.
would see it, and I'm more of a right-brain person. So just seeing you make that transition, well, you're a whole brain person because you're strong on both sides. But just the idea that this all evolved from just life happening, right?
It did. And I was encouraged by a few mentors in my life too. I mean, it does take a leap to go from working for somebody else to risking working on your own. First of all, my husband works for himself. That was helpful. My grandmother, my great-grandmother started several tea shops in the Franklin area years and decades ago.
Now, when you say tea shops, you
And
mean
like a real tea shop where you would walk in and have
tea.
and
Not
little
T-shirts,
sandwiches.
but
No,
actually tea as a
no
beverage.
T-shirts.
Okay.
And then my grandmother had a little grocery store called Mitchell's Market over in Franklin. And I loved working there and making change and running the register and stocking everything. So that sort of came honestly. I like working for myself in that respect. And I could see how she was very creative at bringing new merchandise into the shops. And then later I had another mentor who I will remember here. She passed away at the beginning of COVID. Her name is Melissa, and she used to own La Crema Coffee Company.
Okay.
And she was instrumental in giving me my first break in Waynesville at opening a shop that was sell jam. And once we had that baseline that we knew that we could make it, we moved into Lebanon and opened a shop all by ourselves.
Well, I feel like in a way I'm kind of a groupie of yours because it's kind of like wherever you go and set up a shop, I will follow. And I remember when you had the shop in Waynesville, visited you there. But even prior to that, weren't you in charge of the farmers markets in the area as well? Tell us about that.
I did that for 18 years. When we ran out of peach preserves at the Apple Fest, I was asked by a little garden club to join a brand new farmers market in Waynesville, Ohio. And I'll never forget that when, back in the day, when you would go and ask a city for permission to start a farm market, they were very leery because nobody had really heard of them. That was a California thing to do.
Okay.
And one time I was asked the question on my annual, I won't say which city it wasn't Lebanon, but I've run a lot of farm markets. Are you going to sell mattresses and Elvis paintings?
Oh my gosh.
So it was
Their perception was very, very different.
like a flea market. And that's a totally different business concept. The model is shockingly different. So in Waynesville, and thereafter for many years actually, that taught me a lot about having a very purist market, which Lebanon actually runs as well. Well, it's not a lot of crafts. It's mostly things that are made by a single producer. So for example, gardening, raising cattle, baking, jam making, all of those are considered a good source of farm products.
And so now it's very trendy, isn't it? The farm to table kind of, verbiage that you hear and just I see that all the time. New people and restaurants saying, "Oh, we're a farm to table."
Right.
Of we want to buy from local farmers and help our local, ag business and so forth. So it's really become quite the thing.
Yet nobody gets asked whether they're going to sell Elvis paintings anymore. Everybody knows what a farmer's market is now.
Okay, so let's go back. You were in Waynesville, and then you made the transition to Lebanon.
I did.
Okay.
I was on the corner of Mechanic and Mulberry. I think that's Serenity Salon now. I loved that building. It was such a pretty outside. And then I had the opportunity to move on to Broadway. Aaron Zwelling gave me that opportunity. He's the owner of the ice cream parlor.
Okay.
And it has been a great opportunity for us because we're right out there in the thick of everything that goes on, from every festival to the carriage parade. And then I'm losing track of time, 2 years after I moved into there, that was in 2015. In 2017, Joan Townsend, who owned Oh Suzanna, we had a little discussion one day. I had the audacity to assume that she had never tried to sell her business. She had decided to retire. So I came over here and said, well, why aren't you selling it to somebody? She said, well, I've tried, but you should buy it. And I laughed. I thought, oh, I've never done anything in apparel. How could I do that? Went home and told my husband, Pete, and he said, what a fantastic idea. That would be great. Then you would have more people to work for you, and maybe you could get a vacation once in a while. So we did. We bought Oh Suzanna after she'd pretty much sold out the inventory. And then Joan graciously went to market with me and taught me how to buy in Atlanta apparel and jewelry. And we've been in business here since 2017 of April.
Well, I know Joan, and I was a customer of Joan's, as well as a customer of yours. And I don't know if I just dreamt this as you just told that story, or if I was actually in both of your shops the day that might have transpired. I don't know. But I could always tell that there was energy emerging from both of you because you just had, again, that entrepreneurial spirit. So before we go on to what's happening currently here in your shop, let's go back to the location on the corner of Mechanic and Mulberry.
Okay.
And for those of you that watch the Hallmark movies, you must have seen Sonya in the opening of the Hallmark movie that was filmed here in Lebanon. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Nobody would know me. I'm covered in so much wool.
And it was happening during the summer, right?
Well, it was October, first
Okay.
week
Okay.
of a very hot
It was
October
hot,
here in
right.
Lebanon. And I learned a lot about the movie business. One thing was, when it's a budget movie, they don't come in with these glamorous costumes for us to wear. They hit Goodwill. And they bought tons and tons of heavy sweaters and hats and mufflers and put them into a semi. And when you were chosen to be in the movie, you walked up the back steps, ripped off your clothes, and a designer started slapping clothing on you. I ended up wearing a really heavy knit sweater that was green, my worst color in the world, and a beret. I don't wear berets.
Well, and I remember seeing you in the movie, the opening shot, I think, of the movie, where you had the beret on and you were in the front window of your shop.
Arranging jam.
Right.
But what they don't tell you is you have to wash your clothing every night, because I was on the set all, 7, 8 days that they were here. I had to wait around for my moments to go and be in a certain scene.
Right.
But I had the same clothing most of the time. And then that hot, sweaty October, you just had to go home every night and rewash everything, block it, hold a hairdryer on it to get it to dry fast enough so you could wear it the next morning when they had a call.
What year was that? Remind us.
2014, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember coming out of a meeting at the Warren County Foundation office, which is just a block away off of Mulberry, and coming down and just watching the production of the movie. And so I can tell you, what part of the movie I saw, like in person. They were actually, filming it and so forth. But it was interesting to see how they used cotton, maybe cotton batting, and for the snow.
To look like melty snow, they
Right.
unraveled the batting and then they stood there with hoses and they sprayed it to make it look wet and weepy. And I'll never forget, they were waiting for Apple Fest to pass. And the second that it was over, the next day, all the crew was out there on ladders snipping off the leaves on the trees on Mulberry Street.
I do remember the leaves being off the trees, and it was like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? But, it had to look, well, they set it up like a Christmas tree lot, didn't they?
Oh, yes.
Some of I remember that parking lot.
Bill Duning's lot right behind us here.
Right. But then all the trees had to look like it was wintertime. So, yeah, it was quite a production. Of course, all the signage was changed and so on and so forth. But
Yeah, people think it's really fun. They'll come into town and say, well, I want to go to the best cafe because that was in the movie and it looked really good. And I'll have to explain to them it was the facade of the best cafe that was in the movie, but the interior is the country kitchen out on I-71.
Right.
So they do that a lot. In fact, the two houses that were in the movie, you could see the facades, but when they went to the interiors, they were switched.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yes.
I knew where the two exterior shots were of the houses. I did not realize that the interiors were.
I don't know why, other than to say maybe Olympia Dukakis, looked, maybe it looked like she should live in the interior of one home, and I don't know.
Oh, we'll have to look into that.
She was a cool lady, by the way. I sent her a little basket of jam
Oh.
to her trailer.
Oh.
And then the last night that we were filming, she kept talking to me about pumpkin butter. And oh, she loved it. She never heard of it. And we kept getting in trouble with the director.
Because you were chatting
Yes.
back and
yeah,
forth.
we were like bad schoolgirls.
Oh, well. Anyway, it is very, I know many people that live like throughout the country, and they'll say, oh, wasn't that where the movie, the Hallmark movie? And then, of course, Harbor Valley PTA was filmed here in Lebanon. Milk Money was filmed here in Lebanon. So actually, the downtown area has been used, in films fairly often, considering, we're a small Midwestern town. But we're in the heart of it all.
I think we'd start to take it for granted after a while. It's beauty that we're used to living in. I'm sure people who live in Colorado among the majestic mountains forget how gorgeous they are sometimes. But if you drive around Ohio, there's not a lot of these towns left where you still have a train and a depot and an incredible restaurant right across the street from us, the Golden Lamb.
Right.
In fact, I tell a lot of our customers this. Do you know why our roads are so wide? Have I told you this before?
I actually do know, but tell us what you tell them.
Because, now this is what I've understood, because the Golden Lamb, being such a key part of the downtown, was established before a lot of the other blocks were created. And cars weren't prevalent then, right?
Right.
So they had horses,
Right.
stagecoaches, and they had to be able to make a U-E. And in order to make a U-E, the road had to be wide enough.
That's right.
So it's called 6 poles wide. That's the width of, I think if I understand it, that's the pole that the horse pushes. So 6 poles, 6 horses, that's the distance. But what a great boon, because if you go to the other small villages, they don't have wide roads because they didn't have a Golden Lamb as an anchor to their downtown.
Right.
And here we are in this century, needing on-street parking on both sides for these big cars, and we have a turn lane here, and do we have 2 turns? Yeah, we have a turn lane, and we have 2 lanes going in each direction.
Right.
Who has in a small town that width of a downtown?
Right.
But we do.
Well, it is very interesting in Warren County that there's so much early history that's still preserved and very much a part of 21st century now. And then that even includes the downtown, business district. So, well, there are so many things I could ask you about, but let's carry on.
Okay.
Okay, so here you are, and you're located here in Oh Suzanna shop, and it's still called Oh Suzanna's. And then your other shop is
right next door.
door.
I could put my hand through the wall if I could, and we'd be right there. It's called the Jam and Jelly Lady.
And then you're still connected to the ice cream parlor by the little doorway?
Yes, but during the pandemic, when everybody had to monitor the number of people in their shops, we closed that door.
Okay.
I sincerely hope we'll be opening it again soon, because I miss the tinkle of the dishes and smelling waffle cones being made in the morning.
Oh.
And yeah.
That's a nice
Some
aroma.
advantages of being in that shop, yes.
Well, since you mentioned the pandemic, I was just thinking about the differences and maybe the recollections, your reflections on your journey through the pandemic into where we are now. Tell us a little bit about how it impacted business,
Small businesses.
how it impacted, your just everything about the way you ran the business and ordered, all your supplies and so forth.
Well, in the beginning, the first day I sat home and said, yippee, I get a little bit of a break. And after about 2 days, maybe 3 days, I thought, we've got all this Easter inventory, and I don't see an end to this right off the bat. We had Easter inventory, we had a website that for years we have taken reservations for our canning classes.
Oh, okay.
But it existed. I pay one flat annual fee to have that website, and I create it myself. So it took me about 24 hours, but I added about 350 items onto the website, priced them, put some on sale, and then started pushing it out on Facebook for our local folks to get to our website to buy their Easter items. From jam to Easter bunnies, placemats, table runners, you name it, we had Easter. And we could deliver. Gas was cheap, and my kids were really bored with college being closed.
Right.
So we did contactless delivery for months. And to this day, we still do some of it. We don't mind at all as long as an order is over $25. We deliver free in Lebanon.
So you made that adjustment pretty quickly.
Yes, within 1 week we were. In fact, a funny note here, I'm inspected by the Ohio Department of Agriculture and the FDA because canning it's a specialty to put food on a shelf indefinitely. So they came and offered a surprise visit in the cannery. The only thing is I wasn't operating. I couldn't get any fruit, couldn't get any jars. All my suppliers were closed. But I had moved all the Easter bunnies into the cannery so that I would have easy access to my inventory. The inspector walked in, and it was top to bottom covered in pastels of everything you could think of for an Easter basket. And she just said,
This
maybe
is where the Easter bunny lives.
maybe I should come back later. I don't think you're ready for an inspection. No, I wasn't. But she understood. And that was the easiest way for us to put together orders and get them out. I mean, everything from packing tape to paper to boxes and bags, we moved everything over into the cannery so we could easily put it together and get it to folks.
And when you mentioned the cannery, this is actually a commercial kitchen that your husband and his crew or your boys and
They were pretty
family?
little. They were pretty little then,
okay.
yeah.
Well, anyway, they built the commercial kitchen or
Yes.
designed it.
I even have the napkin that Pete and I used the day we sat down and sort of made a little square and said, wouldn't it be nice if we had a cannery? And I thought, it'll never get done. Within 6 months, he had the excavator already digging. And so it is commercial. Sometimes I look at commercial kitchens downtown in the old buildings and I think those poor chefs, they're cooking in that much room, and I feel so lucky to have 1,000 square feet. But we have no ovens. We don't need them because we're making jam. So we have an enormous stove that's 12 feet long, custom made, and everything you could think of that you need in a cannery. Plus, it was built inside of a barn. We built the barn first and then built out the cannery according to our ODA inspector's instructions.
And you give lessons, canning
do.
lessons there as
I
well.
do. They've been pretty lean during the pandemic. I didn't teach. Did I teach one last year? I did. I taught one last year. I think I only accepted 4 students. We used to accept up to 13, but when we were trying to do them in 2020, even though we halved them and we went by the local health department guidelines, people were so scared they were running out. One lady ran out and said, oh no, it's a super spreader. She wouldn't be in a room with anybody. And I thought, I don't want to scare anybody.
Right.
And I want them to be comfortable. And I'm not comfortable trying to teach when I'm looking into people's eyes, and they're looking very worried about the person 6 feet from them. So
Right.
we shut them down. Now we're going to start again this year.
Okay.
And I know the girls are already saying, where's the list? Where's the schedule? Because people keep calling and asking, when are they starting
Very popular.
again? But we don't teach commercial canning. I get asked that a lot. That's a completely different animal. I'm teaching home canning. So in our it's a canning boot camp. It's a whole day. And they learn in the beginning water bath canning, followed by pressure canning in the afternoon. We provide lunch, and by the time they're done, they will know a lot more than their grandmother or mother had ever taught them, because I want to teach the science of it. That's the IT part of me coming out.
There you go.
I want to know all the answers, and I want to share these with the students so that they feel they're comfortable.
And this is starting with people that have like no experience in canning.
We get every range.
Okay.
I've had a lady who canned for 30 years and said, I'm good at it, but I don't know why I do what I do. So teach me why I'm doing these things, and that way when I pass it on to my granddaughters, I can scare them and tell them, if you don't do it right, this is what could happen to you.
Okay.
And
good.
then we get a lot of young moms who are trying to, like, boy, that sounds familiar, trying to stretch their budgets and feed their kids well. So we get everybody.
Well, and I have to take this moment to mention one of our dear friends who is no longer with us, but in spirit, she is with us, Margaret Henry, who was the day that she told me at church that she had worked for General Mills in her early years, and that she had been the hands of Betty Crocker. I just couldn't wait to tell everyone I knew and people I didn't know. I mean, we went shopping one day in a store over in Deerfield Township, and I just mentioned it. I said, Margaret, go ahead and try on your dress for your, it was for their 50th, 60th anniversary. And I was standing there and I said, this just happens to be the hands of Betty Crocker now going in and trying, and every head turned in the shop, like, what? And then Margaret was always so shy about even talking about it. But at that time, General Mills, used just like a table, I would say, so a longer display table like this with a drape on it, and her hands, she would be down where you couldn't see her, but her hands were up like crimping pie crust and doing all the things. And then they did the magic of commercial making, and then they had the face of the model, who was Betty Crocker at the time. And she said Betty Crocker used to get all kinds of birthday, Christmas gifts. And she said Betty Crocker was not really
Doesn't know how to
a person. It was like all these different models who were the different faces as time went on of Betty Crocker. But
Margaret told me how she was working and they came in and told her that she'd been chosen. And it wasn't because of her hands being pretty, it was because she was a home economist.
Yes, she was.
And she came to a canning class once.
Yes, I remember.
And boy, was she hilarious. She was to that point where she mostly sat and just made everybody laugh the whole time.
Right.
And
but it was such a great story, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. We had a Hands of Betty Crocker Day down when we
on
were
your shop.
Yes, and I still have pictures of people there with their grandchildren asking to have their children's cookbook signed by Betty Crocker.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it was neat.
It is so great. Okay, so we could, again, we'll bring it back to the journey. And here we are today. We are opening up in 2022 with your lines of spring and maybe some summer coming in too. But as you can see, we have kind of a holiday theme going on here. So tell us what kinds of things you carry in the shop.
Well, at least I can tell you that we carry something now, because in the last couple of years, the supply chains have been so difficult for us that sometimes we don't know what we're opening when we open a box.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I know we have stuffed animals right here, but this is actually from 2021. It's my last big rabbit. But the reason is because all the best jelly cats, yeah, but they're so squishy. But all the best plush has had a real hard time. It's all manufactured in China, And we were talking about earlier, sometimes there's quality issues. So if it's a very high quality animal, it's the manufacturer will get dropped, and then Jellycat's left looking for somebody else who can do the job correctly. And it's just people like us. They're experiencing the same pandemic problems. They've got the same workforce problems, the same problems at home that Americans do. And gosh, I feel for them if you're really sick and feel like you still have to come into work, and then all of a sudden you're making a product that's no good. So it's been I felt like this huge wheel that was the world economy had been moving so beautifully, and it really got ratcheted up when we closed. But it's coming back to life again. And I'm expecting lots of new Jellycat here in the next week.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, this is so cushy and soft. Which reminds me, when you did your programs from upstairs, tell everyone how you kind of adapted to have your family be the camera people, and your sons, your husband, and then your daughter was involved. It was a whole family
affair.
Right.
I knew you were going to say
Yes.
that. That really gives us an age right there.
Well,
the family
right,
affair,
right.
It worked out really well. We noticed that some other companies were pivoting to using Facebook Live shows, and thought, why don't we try it? What have we got to lose? We have the top of Oh Suzanna that was mostly used for storage and bookkeeping. So I happen to have a husband who's very good with hardware. I have a son who's a broadcast engineer in radio, and I have another son who works for my husband, so he's really good with this. And I have a daughter who's good at sales and talking like me. Mm-hmm. So we put it together. My husband hardwired the upstairs with, so we bypass Wi-Fi and never worry about a transmission problem. My youngest son built a new computer that could handle the capacity of the bandwidth really nicely. We had a new modem and a new router put in to make sure we'd be very smooth, although I didn't really need the modem because we ended up not using Wi-Fi. But we bought our own mics because my husband deals with that as well in his technical area. And we had a really nice studio going on upstairs. We even took an old wheelie platform that I think Joan Townsend once used for displays, and we duct taped, because duct tape works for everything, right? We duct taped the tripod onto it so we can smoothly roll it around as we transition from product to product. But we've done everything upstairs, from shows for our jewelry to apparel, home goods, culinary items. We'll do Father's Day themes. We still do them a little bit. I have found that in the first half of the year, people are too excited about, first they're done spending money because Christmas just ended. And then they're really excited about getting out and gardening. So it seems to be the second half of the year when our shows do the best.
Well, I have to say, though, I tuned in almost every time. And they were usually on Monday or Tuesday?
Monday nights at 7.
Okay. And there I was, I was watching Jeopardy, but I was tuning in to Sonya on my phone and watching her as I was, kind of dual tasking. And then you had to say if it was something it was kind of a bidding, not bidding process. It was like you said mine, you printed in the, comment section and sent it in, and you time stamped it. And, if you were the first person, or, it depended upon how many items you had, of that particular.
We haven't done one in a few months, but we're getting ready to do one at the end of April.
Oh.
I think it's going to be April 30th.
Okay.
I'm waiting to hear from Rachel Paga, who is the owner of Rachel Marie Jewelry, as to whether or not that's a good date.
And is this some of the
I wore the
jewelry?
biggest, most sparkliest one because it's fun. It's
beautiful.
Isn't that fun?
Beautiful, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I really like her jewelry. And it's made in Michigan. So I tell people, gosh, you can buy stuff that's made in China, and that's all fine and good, but when it breaks, guess what I can do? I can ship it back to Michigan, and she'll go ahead and repair it and send it right back to me.
And you've had trunk shows here in the shop
Yes.
of her jewelry.
Yes. So
Right.
we'll be having a Friday, Saturday trunk show, but we'll
Okay.
also, I usually precede it with a Monday night show.
Alrighty.
Because over the last 2 years, having these online shows, we've developed a lot of out-of-state clients, and they love to buy jewelry. So I give them a little bit of a heads up, and they join in on Monday night. We'll sell a few pieces. I leave the bigger collection for the actual floor show on Friday and Saturday. But we'll be serving little drinks, doing hand massages, and helping ladies find their next lovely piece of jewelry.
Beautiful. Well, that is something, isn't it, with the virtual platform, that you could broaden your audience, really. And I know my sister-in-law joined me from St. Augustine in their home in Florida, and she'd tune in and she'd be like, bidding on things and so forth. And so I found that was another kind of diamonds, literally diamonds in the rough. That kind of evolved from a trying time. You had some really breakthrough moments, right?
Yes, and it still helps us today to, even though it seems like we have more of an endemic at this point, but to be able to up our numbers, especially because we have a lot to make up for over the past few years.
Right.
A lot of small businesses were not able to honor contracts of merchandise that they had ordered. We honored almost all of our contracts, especially with all American companies. Went ahead and paid them for product in 2020, but we had no way to sell it. Very little way. I mean, we were doing some online and we were doing some website, but for the amount of product that we order for 2 shops, we couldn't keep up with it. So last year we were not able to order as much from the American designers, for example. Like one of my favorite ones is out of Chicago. And the first year I bought everything that I put on order because I wanted to help her exist, just as we were fighting for our existence. But last year I ended up with so much apparel left over from 2020 that I had to close that account for a year. So this show will be ordering a little bit more from her again. As I said, the wheels are going to get moving again, and if we all help each other out, if people buy local, that really helps.
Well, I just want to say that today I wore a total Oh Suzanna outfit.
I saw that.
I love this. I call this my coat of many colors, and I love this design. And so I wore this little lightweight coat today, and then the lissé.
I know you like lissé pants.
I like the lissé pants. So I know that you have a couple of people that work with you that are here today, and they have some fashions to show. Would you like them to come?
And I'll describe to you what they're doing.
Okay.
Jen, you want to walk on over here? This is Miss Jen, who everybody in town knows. She's a member of the Elks. Why don't you stand right here in between us, and we'll show what you have on. This is a gorgeous Pima cotton top called Greti Zuger. Now, she is known for not just Peruvian cotton, but the lace on here is imported from Italy. She owns 2 manufacturing places, one in Peru, one in Italy, and she puts them together to come up with these great hand-dyed colors. And Jenna's also wearing some spring Rachel Marie that is, again, from Michigan. It's beautiful Swarovski crystals, and it doesn't turn color. I know a lot of people have problems with silver turning color, but this is an oxidized silver, so it will never tarnish on you. I love that. And it doesn't have any nickel, another big plus. And she chose this whole outfit herself, and I really like it on you. And with your coloring, I think that should go home with you.
Yes. It matches. It matches perfectly. Thanks, Jen. Beautiful.
And then Miss Sandy. Sandy is wearing a dress from another American designer called Joh, J-O-H. And it's so funny because I told her she really ought to wear this dress today because Jen was wearing an aqua top. And she said, Sonya, I already bought it. It's in my backpack. So it worked out really well. But it's a beautiful hand-dyed tie-dye here from yellow to white to green. It looks great on the beach. You've got a little slit on the side so it keeps you cool.
Oh, nice.
But if you prefer to have your legs covered up a little bit, it goes halfway to the ankle on the on her shin, if you want to turn around just a little bit. I like, too, that it has the sleeves on it because it's just, I mean, most women don't want a mature woman usually doesn't want a sleeveless shirt, so this looks great. And the other best thing I like about it is the V-neck, because you can wear so many necklaces with a V-neck.
Well, look at that too.
You
The
know.
necklace and the bracelet.
Yes.
Love it.
This is all, again, Rachel Marie. And see, the nice thing about that V-neck is she could wear a really tight one right here, but she could also wear a longer layered necklace with it. So it gives you a lot more options than something that's too fussy right here.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks,
so much.
Sandy.
Very nice. Very
I promised
nice.
them they wouldn't have to talk.
I know. They said, don't ask us any questions, so I didn't. But anyway, I loved it that they could wear some of the outfits. And then you mentioned your bracelet and your necklace and earrings as well?
They're all Rachel Marie.
Okay.
Yeah, I wear a lot of it actually.
Okay.
It's a good brand for me. I think it's a good brand for a lot of women. It can range from the ultra sparkly, like this bracelet, which isn't mine. I took it from the case. There's the advantage here. I get to model.
Sure.
But I like a lot of the tiny little crystals that just hit right there, and I have 5 of them, so I can just choose whatever I'm wearing that day. And you know, I like it because she's an American designer. A lot of times she incorporates beads and crystals from the Bavarian area of Europe that are really interesting, that will have a World War II heritage. And I'm always begging her, when you're sending me a trunk show, think of me and send some more of the World War II pieces, because I think the story is fascinating, that these, the story behind that is the people who made the beads were worried about Hitler pushing into their area, so they knew that their bead factories would be turned into munitions plants of some sort. So they would take all their art and bury it under their houses and caves and their barns. Sometimes they didn't survive the war, and years later their art appears, the beads appear, and they're sold at auction. And Rachel often buys a slew of them and incorporates them with the Swarovski beads.
Oh, how interesting.
Or Swarovski crystals, I should say.
Right, right.
But I just think that is a piece of history that I'd like to own a little bit. We saw a lot of that when it comes in.
I know that you sound like you know so many of the people you purchase from personally. Have you met them at shows when you go to shows? Is that how you make that connection?
Yes, almost every designer that we use, I've met them, gone to dinner with them. We have a real person-to-person relationship, which is great because we can talk about the trends and what women like, and it's an honor.
Right.
It truly is. But also, I talk a lot because I talk a lot. I do. But I loved the science part of me wants to know what things are made of. I want to know if this is cotton. I know that Jen had on that beautiful Grady Zuger top that was Peruvian cotton. I love the history of Peruvian cotton and the fact that you can wash it a million times and have it come out and don't have to iron it. I like to know what all the synthetic materials are. Are they too hot? Or do they keep you cool? I just think that's fascinating. So we try really hard in this shop to learn about our materials, learn about why garments are made the way they are. So it's not only looks good, but it fits good, and it's going to be long-term for you.
Well, something I wanted to, I'm thinking as you're talking and I'm listening, you also do so many community service kinds of efforts, which I really admire. And we are sponsored by Warren County Community Services. So that's kind of a nice lead-in to maybe telling us about your latest promotion that you posted on Facebook just this last week, I think.
Yeah.
A certain percentage was going to go.
Yes. I was trying to think of which one. We do. We donated 10% of our sales last Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to one went, let's see, this shop, Oh Suzanna, the 10% went to the World Central Kitchen, which a lot of people have now become very aware of
Because of
Ukraine. It's mostly established in Poland, and I was watching the news this morning, and there was the chef who runs it again.
Yes.
He brings in chefs from all over the world who will volunteer, sort of like Doctors Without Borders, only it's about feeding people.
Right, right.
My husband always says, feed somebody, sit down and have a meal with them, and everything will come out.
Well, I just admire the fact. Well, I admire you just overall. I admire you for everything that you do, but the fact that you're able to pull in, kind of local as well as statewide, national, global issues. You make people aware of them through your posts when you do promotions, like as you just described.
It's really humbling when you get an email or a message back from a customer who said, I didn't know about that. I donated right away myself without even coming into the shop. They went ahead and made their own donation, and one lady just wrote back to me and said, and I made a second one because I was just so impressed by the good works. We also did Airbnb. I thought this was really interesting that when Hurricane Sandy hit, and I think I explained this on the post, but I'm not sure, there was a single woman in New York City who had an Airbnb that wasn't rented. And she said, I'm going to offer that up to a family. And when she told Airbnb her plans, they said, that's a great idea. So they created Airbnb.org as opposed to .com.
Okay.
And the org, if you go to the website, that lady who came up with the idea, her face is plastered all over it. She is the face of that charity. And that way Airbnbs can, Airbnb.org will accept our money, my donation,
Okay.
and then use it to pay for rentals in war-torn areas or areas ravaged by hurricanes. So in this case, they're actually paying for Airbnbs in Poland, Ukraine, Moldavia, sorry, and other nearby countries to house people.
Right, right. Well, so topical, timely, and you're such a treasure to have in any downtown, let alone the downtown area here in Lebanon. Before we wrap up, because we could go for another hour or two, tell us of future events that are upcoming.
Well, the next one on the books will be the Chocolate Walk, which is in downtown Lebanon, created by Main Street Lebanon.
Okay.
And the tickets are available. All you have to do is go to mainstreetlebanon.org, all one big.
I wondered.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, we just happen to have
chocolate here.
Chocolate right behind, and you carry chocolate.
I do. This is from our shop.
Yes.
And the point is that every shop has to have to be part of the Chocolate Walk.
Okay.
You give away a gourmet piece of chocolate.
Okay.
I'm fortunate in that we're a culinary shop, so we sell chocolate. So the jam shop will be handing out actually pieces of Koblenz chocolate. It's out of the Amish country. And we'll be handing out chocolate covered caramels over there. The other chocolate that we sell is from Kentucky, from Ruth Hunt, which is known for their bourbon balls. So Oh Suzanna will be handing out bourbon balls. And of course, we'll have a seal on chocolate that night because everybody needs to leave with a bunch of chocolate.
Sure. And what's the date?
And 23rd of April.
Okay.
And it's from 4 to 7 at night. The tickets are $25. You buy the ticket, and it'll probably give you a wristband, is what I'm guessing, from previous years. And you have a map of all the shops that are involved.
Participating.
And you walk in, and it could be anything from a chocolate drink to a piece of chocolate wrapped up to take home. But it's a nice fundraiser for the downtown. Main Street Lebanon does a lot to preserve our downtown. We were talking about earlier how lucky we are to have such an incredibly gorgeous downtown.
Right.
But it isn't kept up on a string. It costs a lot of money to maintain this type of beauty. So it's a fundraiser, and the merchants are all donating the chocolate.
Well, and just speaking of the merchants briefly, how many merchants usually take part, would you say?
20 or more.
20 or more. Okay.
So for $25 gourmet chocolates, it's actually a really good deal.
A good deal.
Yeah.
A very good deal. Very good. Well, I thank you so much for hosting us today in your charming Oh Suzanna shop.
Thank you.
And I encourage our audience to take a stroll downtown, and any downtown where you live, but especially in Lebanon because it's very walker friendly. Wouldn't you say?
It's very charming. I could sit out there with a cup of ice cream from the ice cream parlor or Wits and just people watch for a good
Right.
solid hour before I'm ready to go home.
Right. So pedestrians are welcome. Of course, there's ample parking in the municipal parking lot and on street parking as well. So I know that these beautiful days that are coming our way are going to kind of give you the urge to get out and explore. Because interestingly enough, you have said that people from communities, I would think everybody's been in this shop at least once in their life. And you
Yes.
said there are some people that say, oh, I've never been in here before. Make sure that you come in and maybe visit every shop downtown, just to at least
Yes.
say that you have poked your head inside the doorway and said hello.
Well.
Because the local merchants are the merchants that are helping in your local fundraisers. They're the ones helping your efforts. Please support them. We hope that you enjoyed our show today. And thanks once again to Warren County Community Services for sponsoring Feelin Good. And we hope to see you soon. Bye for now.